Okay, so as far as the market interface is concerned, let's start with that to give a quick intro also for developers. You saw this new ocean architecture overview in Trent's slide, which was basically showing everything. As far as the market is concerned, it's rather simple now. Because at the bottom we have our front end application, which is nothing more than a React app. We use Gatsby, but we don't really make use that much use of it. So whatever fits can be used there. But we make use of our new Ocean protocol React hooks, which are essentially a convenient library on top of Ocean.js. And with Ocean.js, we basically do everything. So we do not have to communicate to Balancer directly or something like that. But everything regarding data tokens, what Trent just mentioned, all happens through Ocean.js, or even more simple with the React hooks. As far as the data stores are concerned, we still have Aquarius. We're not super happy about that, but we repurposed Aquarius, which was a metadata store. Now it is a metadata catch. What it actually does is it catches now the metadata, which we now publish on chain in the Ethereum blockchain, on mainnet or on Rinkeby, and Aquarius catches that for us so that UIs can more easily construct their interfaces. Internally, we call it a poor man's the graph. The thing is, we know we want to go into a state where we can eliminate Aquarius and then only use the graph. And as far as the access side is concerned, we still have the provider, and the provider now is this still our access proxy whenever a consume or a publish happens. And that's enough for slides. I'm pretty sure everybody wants to actually see the real thing. So I'm trying to scratch the surface of some user flows. So this is the thing which connects by default to the mainnet. So everything you see in the UI is actually constructed from whatever is on chain and whatever network you're connected to. So our contracts are deployed on mainnet and on Rinkeby. So if you just switch to Rinkeby in MetaMask, you see everything switches. And we also suggest everybody to first publish on Rinkeby to test stuff out with fake money, basically. So already some good assets coming in. So let's maybe see what's going on here. For whatever reason, I can't buy the asset, but you already see that this is essentially what we now have as a data set. It's always a combination of metadata and some sort of price. And this price either can be created by a dynamic market, which is essentially a pool, a liquidity pool, or by setting a fixed price. But because somebody choose to create a pool, we now have here our overview of that pool and how this price comes together. So then you also see that one data set is now represented in a token, and it's a real token. You can actually go to Etherscan, it was created, you see transactions, the real thing. And based on that, we also changed a bit of how our DID is created, this decentralized identifier we're using for each data set. It's essentially the data token address. So if you see here, the address 0x036, and this is then also now represented in a DID. So this is now way more simple, not multiple identifiers anymore, and so on. And then, well, this whole pool thing is obviously a whole world in itself, and pretty sure a lot of you have read the blog posts from Trent, and there's a lot of complexities involved. But in the background, it's only balancer pools, so to speak. But because being balancer pools, it also means there are a lot of rules around them. We try to be user-friendly in exposing those rules in the UI while you do stuff. I see that my wallet is empty. This shouldn't be like that. Yeah, fun stuff. So for whatever reason, either I don't have Ocean. Let's try another asset. No. That's the typical test stuff when we, I swear it worked before. But let's see here. Okay, so now we're on mainnet. This is an asset we created today and also provided some liquidity. But here you can already see more what's actually going on because I created this asset. I then also receive data tokens for this asset because I have created this pool. And based on that, I'm allowed to already download it. So a typical user flow is that people come to the market, see a button that they can download, buy it, and this in the background gets them a data token. They spend the data token back into the pool, and for that they can essentially download the data set. So this is all the new access mechanism. In the UI, it works kind of as before, but there are no service execution agreements or anything more complex happening on chain. But what we probably should do, we will just, yeah, here it actually works on mainnet. I think I don't have Ocean in that account anymore. Well, so I could, for instance, add more liquidity to this pool, and I see, okay, then I will receive those pool shares. Pool shares essentially being balance of pool tokens of this respective pool and how much percentage more I get. And you also see that there is a swap fee. The swap fee can be set by the pool creator in the very beginning. The maximum is 10, minimum 0.1%. And based on that, you will, as a liquidity provider in the typical liquidity provider pool fashion, earn on every transaction happening on that asset based on your share of the pool. Okay, what just happened? So here we already see an interesting problem because we are currently working on that. Those estimations are way off. They are not true. We checked it today and you spend actually way, way, way less, like a tenth of that. So we're currently working on getting those estimations in MetaMask all right again. And this is always the fun part. That's why I didn't want it to actually test it on mainnet, because transactions actually take a bit of time and it failed. Why is my screen doing that? Yeah, waiting for Ethereum mainnet transactions. It's obviously a long process to wait for. So that's the only thing we can do here. But essentially, if you know Uniswap or Balancer, this whole pool widget with adding liquidity and removing liquidity has essentially the same rules around that, only that in our case, data tokens and Ocean are the only combination. And data token is always the data token for the data respective data set. So you can't add data tokens from other data sets to that pool. It's always bound. So every pool is really bound to the data set. So that the data set, metadata, data token, and the pool kind of create a unity you'd see here in one view. but I'm pretty sure we're going to wait like 5 minutes or something like that. So we now have simply added liquidity to this pool. And you also see that, yeah, a bunch of tokens changed hands, and I added 10 Ocean tokens, which moved out of my wallet into the pool. So, oops. When you now go into the pool, my pool share basically increased, the whole value also increased. And I can also remove liquidity, but this gets very tricky. You basically see that you can't get the data token, so to speak, quickly from outside of the market as of right now. We're still planning to also add a swap functionality in the market, but not right now. So as it is right now, you essentially add Ocean, and at the same time also a bunch of data tokens are created. So you will be able to only remove your complete liquidity when you actually also take out the amount of Ocean and data tokens. But the data tokens are not that valuable right now. But this is essentially where we expect that also other tools will come in and deal with that. Because it's not possible to remove a certain amount of liquidity above the total pool liquidity of a balancer pool, which is why, as of right now, I'm only the only person adding liquidity here. So that's why in the simple case where the data tokens in the background are converted back to Ocean, I simply can't get 100% back, but I will always be able to get this back when I'm okay with getting it paid out in data tokens, basically. So again, there's a lot of rules around that. I suggest reading into Trent's blog posts about that. And another thing is obviously the whole publish flow. So let's try to get into another transaction and actually publish something. I actually wanted to publish it on Ringkey, but as it looks like, it does not detect my Ocean here, although I have. Should be fine. Okay, so we have a new publish window, which is live editing flow. So you see on the side a live preview of everything. In here, you can use Markdown and also see live what's going on there. So added a quick code block. So Markdown is possible. You see exactly what's going on here. Then we have our data file, which always needs to be hosted somewhere else, basically, because Ocean Protocol does not host any data. We just encrypt this data URL and then store this encrypted URL. So here, it's the only place when users will ever get to see this URL. And this URL then will get decrypted when download is allowed, only when data token is then exchanged. I can also add a sample file, which is staying plain text, quickly edit something to IPFS for that. And as of right now, we only have download on the mainnet. And then we arrive at our data token. So in the background, we just auto-generate data token names and their symbols based on a predefined word list. The community is totally open to extend this word list. But for now, I think we have a nice bunch of combinations. Let's go with something. And you can also add some tags. And this is essentially already it. Thanks, MetaMask. Okay, now we're kicking off the publishing, which is now using first our newly created metadata contract to actually store the metadata on chain. Once we're in there, we're also then gonna wait a bit for Aquarius to pick up those changes, and in the end, we essentially have that. And in between this process is also the initial data token creation. Man. Okay. And now we're back at waiting for stuff on the blockchain happening. The token was already created. Now we're just waiting for Aquarius to pick up the changes. And with that, we then at the end have created our metadata and the data token for it, but only the metadata and the data token for it. If you go to the data set, you will now see as the publisher and only as the publisher, at least for now, you see that, hey, you need to create a pricing for it. So we're doing exactly that now. And there you see our data token reflected. And we now have the option of either creating a simple fixed price, essentially meaning I want whenever somebody downloads this data set to pay 10 Ocean. Then you could create this pricing. There's no pool involved, no more complexity in the background. This is done with a fixed rate exchange contract. So there's essentially an exchange created in the background defining the price, so it will simply not change. But the real fun is essentially in the dynamic tab, which, yeah, again, as you saw, it's complex already with like seeing the pools, but also creating the pool essentially mimics how Balancer works with the added complexity of also defining a certain price you want to achieve. So as it is in this constellation, it would say, okay, I want my data set to cost 10 Ocean, and I'm willing to provide liquidity of that much. We right now encourage this fixed weight because we don't want people to add way too much Ocean. But of course, you need to at least add as much Ocean as you want your data set to cost. Otherwise, the whole pool mechanics do not work out. And based on that, when you start changing some values and testing around, you also see that we calculate an expected first price, meaning this is the price to be expected right after publishing. And then when people come and try to use the asset, this is the first price. After that, of course, it's a dynamic market. So after that, we can't guarantee you what's going to happen. That's why I also always, as a warning, test in Rinkeby first and encouraging everybody to just play around with those values, what happens. We try to be very transparent in what comes out of it in the end. You will also see when you modify the swap fee, the expected first price changes. Yeah. So let's just say I want to provide 100 Ocean token into that pool as initial liquidity. And in the background, 90 data tokens are going to be minted. Because there is also a lot going on when we actually start to create the pricing. Sorry about that. We actually have to approve and wait for multiple things, but it's actually happening in one process. We still have to wait, basically. But now we're minting the amount of data tokens you just have seen. And let us push out by MetaMask always, or Firefox. I don't know who is the problem. Now that the data tokens are there, they are now in my wallet. Now the pool is created, and after the pool is created, will then be asked to provide the entered amount of Ocean and the entered amount of data tokens back into the pool. This is our data token, asks me to spend my data tokens, allowing that. And on Rinkeby, this actually looks much more expectable with the fees. And the next one. Now I'm asked to allow also spending the ocean to put into the pool. Man, it's actually. So you see that it's in this one process, we actually did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 interactions so far. And then we finally have it. And then you have created a price, essentially, including a pool. So you see the price is about that, what we said the first price is going to be. And here I see all my pool statistics, the total pool statistic, and my own liquidity as before. And that's pretty much it of the main user flows. You are also able to see what's happened when you published, and your pool transactions, and also compute jobs once this is enabled again. The pool transactions really takes a long time right now. We're obviously investigating that. But on the history page, you will, based on your account you're connected to, we fetch everything we find in there. Yeah, there they are. So there you see what just happened. Yeah, this is when I created this pool where I added 90 and 100 ocean and so on. And yeah, just a small thing would be that here are some small settings. So for instance, you see that we always have this live conversion going on in a lot of places. So you can simply switch your currency, and then it also switches the conversion. And we also have a debug mode where you see our metadata structure, which we call a DDO. For instance, on the asset details page, you can then look more closely what is happening also when you yourself publish data sets. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. A quick rundown of the market. Everything is open source. So if you look into our GitHub, it's just called market. And this is essentially the live running version. So the main branch there is always what you see on here. So everything is also transparent. We're not hiding stuff. Yeah. And with that, I think I can now give back to Trent, who is talking a bit more about the earning and staking aspect.